This week we are going to be using our linear equations to solve word problems. So in order to do that, we need to review solving equations just to make sure that you guys remember that. We haven't done this in a while, so I just want to make sure that we remember how to do that. So when I'm asking for you to solve an equation, that would be something like 2x plus 3 equals 7. Let's say something like that. Our goal is to get x on its own, okay? So that is the goal of solving equations, is to get the variable by itself. So in order to do that, the first thing we do is we use inverse operations, meaning it's opposite. So inverse means opposite. So if I am to add, the opposite is subtract. So then the opposite of subtract is adding. Or if I am to multiply, the opposite is to divide then. Okay, so that is what inverse operations mean. So to do this, the very first thing we do is we get rid of addition or subtraction. So here we would get rid of the 3 because that's addition, and then we would get rid of multiplication. So remember, when they're written right next to each other, that means multiply. So solving, these are just one-step equations. So if I look at this one, remember we draw the line. Now I want to get m, the variable, on its own. So I notice that we are adding 4. So the opposite of adding 4 is we subtract 4. And if I type in negative 12 minus 4 into my calculator, I get negative 16. Okay, that's it. M is by itself, the variable is on its own, so I am done. For the next one here, again, draw your line. Now if we see we're doing minus 7, so the opposite of minus is plus, and we do the same number. So those cancel out. So x equals 13 plus 7 is 20. And there's our answer. So those are one-step equations for addition and subtraction. So if I look here, we're still doing one-step equations. This is a divide line. Well, divide, the opposite of divide, was to multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 18, okay? So those two cancel each other out. And remember, it doesn't matter what side the variable is on because the equals are on both sides. So I get 18 times 6 is negative 108. I typed that into my calculator, okay? And then it's negative because a negative times a positive stays negative, okay? All right, and if I look here, remember, when they're written right next to each other, that means multiply. So the opposite of multiply is to divide, okay? So if we want to write the divide symbol instead of the fraction, that might be good. So we divide both sides by 10, so n equals 4. Okay, so those are one-step equations. What we're going to focus on is two-step equations. So if you notice here, we have multiplying and adding. So like I said, our very first thing we got to get rid of is the adding. So we're going to subtract 1. So those cancel out. So 2x equals 4. And then we divide by 2. And then x equals 2. Okay? So that is the answer to this equation. All right, same thing. Draw your line. We're going to subtract 2. So 3x equals 9. We're going to divide by 3. So x equals 3. All right, if I were you, I would pause the video and practice these two on your own. And then go from there. All right, so we minus 3. 4x equals negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. Divide by 4. X equals negative 2. All right. Last example like this one, add the 1. 2x equals 8. And remember, we used to draw lines in between our steps, so you can do that too. So x equals 4. Okay? So that was solving those types of two-step equations. We just have a couple more examples to do. All right, so if I look at this one again, like I said earlier, it doesn't matter what side the equal sign is on. The variable is on the equal side, so we subtract 5. Negative 15 minus 5 is negative 20 equals negative 4m. And then we divide by negative 4. And then, so I forgot my negative sign. Negative 20 divided by negative 4 is a positive 5. All right. And then this example here. So again, pause the video if you want to do practice. So this one's a little weird. It doesn't have the plus sign in the front. So we're going to get rid of this 10 though. So we're going to subtract 10. So negative 6v equals negative 114. And then 114 divided by 6, divided by, negative 6. I forgot to write my step. Equals positive 19 because a negative divided by a negative. All right. Our last two examples. So the reason why I wanted to do these ones is if you notice they had a negative sign in front. So it's still multiplying. We're just dividing by a negative number here. Okay. So then here, for these last two, if you notice, we're going to have a fraction bar. So that means we're going to have dividing. So first thing still though, subtract 8. So we have b divided by negative 4 equals negative 3, because 5 minus 8 is 3. So the opposite of divide is to multiply. So we're going to multiply both sides by negative 4. So b equals positive 12, because a negative times a negative is a positive. All right, last example. So first step, add 1. So m divided by 9 equals negative 1. We're going to multiply both sides by 9 to get rid of the divide. M equals negative 9. All right, so there is reviewing solving equations.